What's up, everybody?
Hey!
We're live. It's time for Geared Up. Kind of set up like we were last week because we went out and we did a pre-record again just to do some stuff outside, shake it up a little bit, and have some fun. So Kate's right next to me, and she's pretty close to the microphone. So if she tells me to do something, you'll be able to hear me get in trouble. Yeah, you'll hear me get in trouble by the producer. So welcome to, again, Geared Up. If you're watching this on profoto.com, you're going to see some stuff pop up around the edges. Like whenever I say B10, you'll probably see a B10 pop up around the edge. It's just for some extra information if you want to click into that and check that out. If you are watching this on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, you're not going to see that. That's okay. If you want to see it, go to profoto.com. If you don't care, hang with us right here. Today, we're diving into high-speed sync versus neutral density filters. So we're going to talk, obviously we're going to roll the video here in just a second, but neutral density filters are just these cool little pieces of glass. They come in different flavors. Let me just take this out. So like this right here is a variable neutral density filter. And then this right here is kind of like a plate style. It's wrapped up because they're very delicate. This one's called a graduated filter. So the filter graduates from, yeah, put it towards the light so maybe you can see it. There we go, right over my face. So you can see it kind of graduates from dark to nothing. So it's more of a plate glass style. I'm going to put this over here because I am known.
I'm going to delicately put it back into its sleeve.
Oh, she'll do that for me. So, but today we're diving into neutral density filters and high-speed sync, kind of the pros and cons of both of those. They both do something very, very similar when it comes to whenever you're using a flash, but we're going to roll the video. Hey, everybody, what's up? Whatever your questions are, save them. Yeah, buenos dias. Ask your questions in the chat. We're going to throw them up on the screen whenever the video's over. We'll address whatever you want to talk about. We also have the photos ready to rock and roll. So with that being said, we're going to start the video. So here we go. Welcome to another Geared Up Outside. Today, we're going to be talking about high-speed sync versus neutral density filters. What is a neutral density filter? What is high-speed sync? What do they do that's so different from one another? We're going to dive into that, help you make sure that you understand whether or not you need to be going with the neutral density filter, whether or not you're fine with high-speed sync. Can you work with both? And we're going to just take some cool photos with Kate in the background as she moseys into the scene. Here we are. As she moseys into the scene. So let's start first with neutral density filters. What is a neutral density filter? A neutral density filter is just a piece of glass that you're putting in front of your lens to knock down additional light. It's what was used forever before high-speed sync was before high-speed sync was really anything, in order to be able to shoot more wide open with your camera and your flash. It helped keep you below your camera's sync speed. So neutral density filters come in a couple of different flavors. You can get them in a plate style, which is they're kind of just set as to what they are with the different measurements of how much light is actually being reduced coming into your camera. Or you could have this route, which is something called a variable neutral density filter. A variable neutral density filter is essentially just two polarizer filters that are inside one housing that you can rotate, and you can change the amount of light that you're letting in with just one filter as opposed to having a whole bunch of different plates. So that's your variable neutral density filter. The upside for it is they're really, really good. Just make sure that you're buying a high quality one because you are putting a piece of glass in front of your lens. So make sure your optics are really, really good. But they're really, really easy to use. And the variable neutral density filters are nice because you can have one piece of equipment as opposed to having a whole bunch of plates. But yeah, that's that. Then you have high-speed sync. So high-speed sync was developed for kind of the same thing, for shooting for more ambient control at wide open apertures when you're using your flash, right? So beforehand, whenever you would go above your sync speeds with your camera, you would get a black line in your shot. And essentially what it is, so a first curtain sync is when the curtain opens, the flash fires, the second curtain closes, right? So in high speed sync, what happens is as your first curtain's opening, your second curtain starts to close. And when your flash fires at that open of the first curtain, there's now a black line across your image sensor because that second curtain started to close. So essentially what high speed sync does is it turns the flash on from the moment that shutter opens, and it starts to expose the image. Cool? So that gives you the ability now to use your flash at higher shutter speeds so you can work with more wide open apertures and still control your ambient light. The downside to high speed sync is that it does consume a little bit more power. So because the way the flash pulse is managed, it's not as efficient as just a full-on, full power flash from your light. It does take sometimes around a stop, sometimes a stop and a half of light away, depending on how you're shooting. So upside is it's really convenient. All the newest ProPhoto flashes, essentially everything that we've made since the B1 back in 2013 has been high speed sync capable. So you're talking about your B1s, your B10s, your D2s, Pro 10, Pro 11, all that good stuff. So you have the ability to shoot at those higher shutter speeds when you never had that stuff back in the past. So, but again, the downside is you're losing some power. So if you have maybe a light that's not as powerful as the scene that you may need to be exposing the light for, you could be fighting with your light output with high speed sync. So that being said, is that pretty?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's the differences between a neutral density filter and using high speed sync. Now we're going to take some images with Kate here dressed up in her gown and doing some lovely ballet poses, because a lot of you may not know this about Kate, but she is really, really awesome at producing videos, at being an opera singer, and she was a ballerina for much longer than that. Very, very good. Very, very good at it. So multifaceted, multi-talented human being. So what we're going to do here, just so you can kind of understand the scene, so we're in this nice park area with all these really tall trees, and we have the sky coming in from behind. So the canopy is up pretty high, which allows all that extra ambient light in from the background, and that light from the sky into the background. So what we want to do is let that light in to silhouette these trees, kind of silhouette Kate, but we're going to use two lights as essentially rim lights, as edge lighting, to light this pose, kind of make it Kate feel really statuesque, something really, really pretty. She has her dress matches kind of the scenery, the fall scenery, so it should all have this really cool coherent look to it. So we're going to take a multitude of shots. We're going to take some shots of the background so you can see what that looks like. We're going to take it with the lights in high speed sync mode. We're going to pop on a neutral density filter and show you how much light you could potentially save by going the neutral density filter route over high speed sync, if that is what you may need for the shoot. So let's just dive right into that now. So if we were looking at this shot properly exposed, and I'm saying properly exposed because I'm looking at my light meter, I'm gonna sit this way, so I'm staring at you a little bit more. So, but if we're looking at this shot based off the light meter inside the camera, 1/250th of a second is going to be a proper exposure, and that's gonna look like this. You ready? So flash is off. So 3, 2, 1. So that's a proper exposure of the scene right now. 1/250th of a second. We're at 2.8 at an ISO of 160. And it's a really nice natural light shot, but it's not what we're trying to achieve in this image. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the shutter speed down to 1/2000th of a second is where I know I want to be. We've been out here, we've tested this stuff already. So now at 1/2000th of a second, the trees are a lot more silhouetted, and it looks like this. 3, 2, 1. Really, really nice stuff. And of course, obviously, Kate is silhouetted as well. There's not any light coming forward to illuminate the scene. So with that being said, let's turn on our B10 X Pluses. Before you get into the move again, just so you know, light selection, we're using two B10X Pluses. One has an OCF Magnum reflector on it, one of them has an OCF Zoom reflector on it. We went with the Pluses because I knew that we were going to be pushing the power based off the exposures we were going to be working with. And then we went with the modifiers we went with for the exact same reason. So the OCF Zoom and Magnum are highly efficient modifiers. OCF Magnum giving you up to 2 stops more out, and the OCF Zoom giving you about a stop and a half more out of your flash head, depending on how you have it set. So modifier selection, staying efficient, high-powered lights, because we know that we're going to be pushing these pretty hard. So again, they're about 10 feet away from her on each side, so we have a pretty big working distance. Again, another reason that we knew we needed a little more powerful lights and we needed some more efficient modifiers. So at 2,000 of a second, with that being said, we're going to be at full power in high-speed sync. So let's make sure that we are set to full power with the trigger on and Connect Pro. Reading 10 on both. So you ready to go, Kate?
Yeah.
Here we go. So 3, 2, 1. Perfect exposure. The high-speed sync worked awesome. We have this great dark background. The trees are nice and silhouetted. We have this light coming in, but then we have these two flash heads illuminating Kate on both sides beautifully, kind of just giving, one, it's showing the flow of the dress. It's showing the body lines of Kate. So it's kind of, again, I wanted something that felt statuesque, and I think this is doing a really, really good job of that exact same thing. So again, it's something really, really simple. We were able to look with our camera through the viewfinder, get the background the way that we wanted it, set our lights where we wanted them, and we were able to take a shot. I knew that we were probably gonna be pushing 10, so I started there, and surprisingly enough, that's exactly where we landed. It's one of those things too that you're gonna, as you do more and more of this stuff, you're gonna kind of develop this muscle memory of roughly where your lights are gonna need to be. And we've just been doing this long enough now that Kate and I both knew that we needed to set this around 10. So with that being said, let's talk about going into a neutral density filter. Let's talk about what the potential light savings are gonna be and show you that you can achieve the exact same thing. So the cool thing about cameras these days is that, especially with mirrorless cameras and all the DSLRs that have the exposure preview on them, you can see what your background is going to look like ahead of time. So when you were messing with neutral density filters, kind of pre the whole digital, I'm just going to put this down over here. Sorry for going off screen. Before all the digital displays where you could kind of get that preview exposure, or you could just have the sensor look through whatever was happening and just show your normal viewfinder, this would actually start to darken down the exposure a lot, and sometimes it would actually be hard to see to focus. So the cool thing is now we don't really have to deal with that so much. So I'm going to put this neutral density filter onto my camera, and so with my exposure at 2/50th of a second, so with my camera earlier saying that a proper exposure was 2/50th of a second, luckily for me, that's also my camera's sync speed. Like, it's max sync speed before it needs to go into high speed sync. So I'm gonna start, let me say this too before I say that we're gonna start. So at 2/50th of a second of proper exposure, once I went up to 2,000th of a second, I dropped 3 stops of light. So with that being said, I know that looking at my viewfinder, as long as I go to 250th of a second on my camera, which I'm at right now, perfect exposure, if I watch my my light meter in my camera and I take that down to -3 or 3 stops under, so there we are there, the background looks the exact same, and it looks something like this. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. And I'll put both of those images up side by side for you to see. But you can see that with the neutral density filter, now we have the exact same exposure that we had in high speed sync, but now we're working at 250th of a second and we are under our sync speed. So high speed sync usually eats up a lot of light, so I feel like when I turn this on at full power, we're probably going to be overexposed on the shot, but that's okay. We're going to make an adjustment from there. So you ready to go, Kate? So here we go in 3, 2, 1. Perfect. So the exposure is pretty good. It's definitely hot. The shot is definitely overexposed. My guess is it's roughly a stop overexposed. You can see the highlights are pretty, they're not blown out by any means, but we're definitely probably a stop overexposed. So with that being said, pardon the hiccup. So with that being said, we're gonna actually bring everything down to 9, and we're gonna see what that looks like. I have a feeling we're probably gonna be right on the money. So take the Connect Pro down to 9. All right, Kate, you ready to rock and roll? So here we go. Let's get out of that. So 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. And it's a perfect exposure. So by coming down a stop, we have a perfect exposure with an image that looks the exact same as the image that we had in high-speed sync. But now we're a stop lower on our flash output. Let's talk about the pros and cons of both of those. So the pros to go in the neutral density filter route, especially in this scenario, is one, we were able to stay below our camera sync speed, which is going to give us more power on our flash. That does two things for us. One, it's going to let us play with our working distance because now we have a stop of light to play with. So if maybe I don't want the lights in the scene, I could push them out a little bit further and still get a proper exposure. Or if I'm happy with the placement, I've just now gotten back twice the life on my battery. So whereas normally at a power level of 10, you're getting like 200 shots, 220 shots on a B10 battery, it's because it's a 500 watt light. Now by going from 10 to 9, which is half power, 10 is full power, 9 is half power, I've just doubled my flash output. So from 200 to 400. So if you're in a place where maybe you're not going to be able to charge up your batteries, and you're going to need to manage your actual energy consumption on your lights, this is where maybe a neutral density filter is going to be your best friend, because you're not having to push that high speed sync so hard. You're getting back some of your light, and you're also getting back some battery power. Downside is you have to carry a piece of equipment with you, and depending on the lens that you have, so you have to buy, so if you went the variable neutral density filter route, you generally have to buy rings. You either have to buy a neutral density filter for every single one of your lenses, or you have to buy a neutral density filter and you have to carry around a whole bunch of lens adapter rings. That could be a pain. You could lose one, you could forget one. That's not very fun. Or kind of the same thing if you go with like one of the plate systems, where again you have to have a whole bunch of different rings for all your lenses. You have to make sure you have all that stuff. If you forget it, you're kind of out of luck. The upside though is if you do forget it, you still have high speed sync. So you could go into high speed sync and get the exact same result, right? And you're not having to carry an extra piece of equipment because you were already going to bring your trigger. You're already going to bring your flash. So you just have to decide, do you have room in your bag to throw a filter and some extra rings in there? Or does it really matter to you? Are you in a position to charge your batteries, or maybe you're not going to be working at the distances that we're working at and you can kind of play around with some of that stuff. So it's one of those things you just have to have that conversation with you, have this kind of rough estimate of what you're going to do, or just pack the neutral density filter anyway, just in case, right? It's pretty tiny, it doesn't eat up a ton of room, but you're able to get the exact same results two different ways. So hopefully you got some cool information out of that. Neutral density filters are awesome. High speed sync is awesome. Knowing how to use the tools that you have at your disposal to take the images that you want to take. In the meantime, I'm gonna send it back to myself in the studio. Peace out. So it's pretty easy stuff, pretty straightforward. Again, you just have to decide what is the right tool for what it is that you need. So just kind of pre-planning your shoots, thinking about kind of like where you're going to be on location. Do you have access? Do you have a whole bunch of extra batteries, or do you have access to a way to charge them in case something's a little bit low? And if not, maybe throw that neutral density filter into your bag. Really, really easy, straightforward image to take. Two lights, very, very simple. We're really just doing two side lights, two rim lights, using a really hard light to make sure that we could see the detail in the dress to kind of keep the light right where we want it. I was just going for something a little harder to kind of make Kate stand out from the background a little bit more, just in case anybody wants to see what we're talking about again. I will pull up an image. So again, I can move like right here. Yeah, look at that. It's like we knew what we were doing. So the cool thing is that, is it this way? Oh, it's this way.
Yeah.
So the cool thing is the hard light is doing a really, really good job of showing all the detail in the dress. It's doing the rim light is doing a great job of separating her from the background while we're still getting this, really, really cool graphic element with the trees in the background. So, but that being said, I'm trying to see if there's any other questions before I sign off. Hello everybody. What's up? Oh, here we go.
Popped in. Okay, cool.
Let's see what Alan's got for me. Is there a life of flash tube with heavy use of high speed sync? From everything that I've heard from our tech guys, I don't believe, if there is, it'd be minimal. The tubes are kind of designed to handle all the pulses and stuff like that. So I wouldn't expect heavy use of high-speed sync to lessen your flash tube. Let's see. What's up, everybody? Hey, everybody. Close this out so we can see.
Neutral density.
Thanks for honest comparison between. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we make lights, and yes, we make lights to do high-speed sync. But at the same time, this is all about making sure that as people are exploring lighting and understanding the pros and cons of everything, that we give you that information. It's better to have it than not to have it. And there's no reason for us, the lighting manufacturer, to hide that from you. So I think anyone who does is just being disingenuous about their stuff. And the cool thing about ProPhoto is they let us talk pretty openly about this stuff. Alan Jones was no ProPhoto for weddings, of course.
Oh yeah,
ProPhoto, of course. ProPhoto. I'm just clicking stuff now. ProPhoto for weddings, yes. So the upside for ProPhoto stuff is just it's one of those things where it's a dependable light. So to have something that you can count on all the time. I dropped my lights on assignment. I'm not telling you to try to drop your lights on assignment, but there's been a couple of instances where I've done something stupid and I didn't weigh down my light stand, or I didn't pay attention to the wind or something like that, and my lights went down. The upside is I've only ever really lost an umbrella. I think my B1s from a long time ago, I broke the handle off of them, but the cool thing was I was able to pick the light back up and keep shooting with it. So they're made to last a long time. That being said, it's still a piece of equipment. I mean, it could break. Like I said, I've been lucky that my stuff has landed in a way that it hasn't destroyed the light in a way that I couldn't keep my shoot going. So let's see. Yeah, someone was saying you can use other lights to shoot at hypersync. So let's talk about hypersync and the downsides to hypersync. So hypersync is this technology where you're essentially getting this gigantic long flash duration. Cool. But the downside to it is that you can get a natural gradient in the shot. I think we've talked about this when we were talking about HSS versus hypersync before. But hypersync can give you this natural gradient depending on how fast your shutter speed is. So if you don't mind going into your shots and putting a gradient filter onto your stuff to try to get the exposure even top to bottom, that's the downside to hypersync. So that's the downside to hypersync. So you get all clicky on me. Ooh. That's the downside to hypersync. So yeah, sure, you can hypersync lots of stuff. There are lots of flashes out there that can be hypersync. There's some ProPhoto stuff that can be hypersynced. You just need something that can handle a super long flash duration. Let's see. ProPhoto is amazing for weddings. We use it all day long. Appreciate that. It says Facebook user. For some reason, it's not giving me your name.
I'm trying to see if I can pop up their name.
It gives some names sometimes and doesn't give names other times. I don't really understand what the deal with that is. Let's see if I have any other questions. William is saying that HSS drops the life of the flash tube substantially. Again, from all of our engineers, no one's told me that. So I'll have to disagree with you. We'll have to agree to disagree. What's up, everybody? Hi. What's up, Arizona in the house? So cool. So it's a fun live. Again, just talking about the pros and cons of both. I think now that you have the information, you can arm yourself with the right thing to do whenever you're making the decision for your shoot and what kind of stuff you need. So thanks for coming and hanging out with us. It was really, really fun. We've got a whole bunch more stuff planned like this for the future. But in the meantime, have an awesome rest of your day. Peace out.